Good evening, everyone. My name's Ron. I'm an alcoholic. I'd like to welcome you all here. Wow, enthusiastic group tonight. What can I say? Very important that we be mindful of the church. They let us have this $10 million facility for use. It's beautiful, air conditioned, luxurious, and separate of metal chairs. Bring a cushion, right? No smoking on church property. Very important. Please be mindful of that. Rebecca's going to come up here and chair the meeting. Enjoy this evening.
Hi, everybody. My name's Rebecca, and I'm an alcoholic. This is an hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, right here, which the address is 301 North Main Street at 8:30 in Doylestown. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. It's from 7 p.m. to 7:30, right here. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others, through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Yes, go ahead. Yes. Hey, Dan, welcome. Steve, welcome. Welcome. Hey, Rachel, welcome. Hey, Ron, welcome. Hey, Jimmy, welcome. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Phil, welcome. Anyone else that maybe I've missed? No. Okay. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hand. Yeah, look at all that. Woo! Awesome. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Anyone with announcements? No. Okay. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs, please help those who can't afford them. Please help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table, marked big book and donations. I think that's in the back of the room there. If you would like a CD of any speaker, past or present, see me or Ron before or after the meeting. They are available free of charge. And I'd like to ask Holly to come up and read the preamble.
Hi, everyone. My name's Holly, and I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I've Carol to come up and read the 12 steps.
Hi, everybody. My name's Carol, and I'm an alcoholic. The AA 12 Steps of Recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. I'll turn it back to Rebecca.
Okay. The seventh tradition. So every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops, etc. There's absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. So now I would like to introduce the speaker. Sara, I've known Sara for quite a few years, and I admire her program. She works this stuff. And so let me introduce Sara. Let's give a hand to Sara.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sara, and I'm a very, very grateful alcoholic. And oh my gosh, this place is on fire. Awesome. I love it. Thank you, Ron, for inviting me out here. It's really pretty special for me to come out here because there's a lot of people I've been working with in this community for a while. I talk to them on the phone all the time. I just don't get to hook up. And so tonight's been a lot of fun, getting to see a lot of good friends and sponsees and grand sponsees and whatnot. And thank you to Paula, my road dog. Trust a road dog. She always comes with me. Let's see, what the heck is going to come out of my mouth? Oh, Lord. I'm so tired. I'm fueled up on way too much coffee, like since 10 o'clock this morning, and, just had to take it to the wall. I can't even remember my story right now, so this is going to be interesting. Anyway, I better stick with the basic criteria. A little bit of business. Sobriety date. It's July 25th, 1997. I have a home group. The Shuey Big Book meeting in Shoemakersville, Pennsylvania, sort of close to the Reading area. We meet on Saturday nights as well at 7 o'clock. We are a Big Book group. We stay in the 164. We try to study it, share our experience, strength, and hope, always with an eye on the newcomer. And for people that have been around for a while and maybe haven't quite gotten the message yet or gotten sick and need to hear it in a new way. And we're really about that business. So I'm very much a fan of my home group, very much. Okay, so what I was like, what happened, and what I'm like now. I do not want to spend too much time in my story of what it was like. Just enough so that other real alcoholics are going to identify with my story. But I've been saying that literally for like 15 years. And it usually still takes me a half hour. I don't know how long it's going to take. But I'm going to start, sure enough, the very first memory is, it pretty much is always my first memory. I'm about 1 or 2 years old, and it's a summer night, and I was at my grandmother's house on a warm, enchanted summer night, like this, and it was dusk, and, so all my family's around, they're all partying, I mean, my shoes are off, I'm running barefoot in the beautiful, luxurious grass, and life is wonderful. And all of a sudden, I started to notice fireflies for the first time in my life. That's pretty freaking magical. It really is. And I looked up to the sky, and the stars are all coming out. And to me, it was like the stars come down, morphing into fireflies. I was like tripping. You know what I mean? And, I mean, for me, I honestly do believe it was a bit of a spiritual experience, although probably most of my experiences back then, I'm sure, we all had tons of those. For whatever reason, that was locked in memory bank. But I lost that feeling very, very early on. Okay? Just gone. And I'm going to jump to when I was in first grade. And I was raised in a very wonderful family, kind of upper middle class family, actually. We had all our basic needs, beautiful home, blah, blah, blah. All the basic needs were taken care of. 8 children, Catholic family. So I was sent to Catholic school, and if I don't get around to saying it, this is not the Catholic's fault. Okay? I am not the Catholic's fault. I'm not an alcoholic because of the Catholics. Sometimes I don't know how my story is going to come out. But what happened was, I was in first grade, and I was being taught that if you prayed the Hail Mary, the way that I heard it, 5 years old, is that it seemed to me that magical things happened. So I wanted to learn the Hail Mary. Like, yeah, who doesn't want to know that? Especially some beads that go along with it. Like, sign me up. So I learned this prayer, and my mom, one day I was home from school sick, and I don't know, I think there were 4 kids home, and my mom was 9 months pregnant with 2 children in the bathtub. And my one little sister was like, I don't know, 2, and my other sister was a week before her first birthday. And my mom had stepped out to get some towels. And my little sister, that was a year old, slipped in the tub. And the next thing I know, my mom is absolutely frantic, and she is taking her into her bedroom and calling me. I'm the oldest daughter at that time, to come and help her. And it's just this very frantic scene. And what's odd is, and I don't know if my memory's right or not, but I mean, this is the way that I recall it, is that I somehow intuitively knew this was had something to do with death, which is very strange because I honestly don't think I actually knew about death yet. But I could tell something extremely horrifying was happening. And my mom said to me, go in the corner and pray the Hail Mary. And, as you can imagine, I prayed that prayer with the desperation and the purity of a child's heart. It doesn't get more pure or more sincere or more fervent than at a moment like that. And I was thinking to myself, my God, I know the prayer. I know the magic chant, And I'm fully expecting magic to happen. Whereas, in fact, a couple hours later, my mom and dad came back from the hospital, and my sister had drowned. And that does not make me an alcoholic. But the reason why it always comes up in my story is because I thought it did. Who wouldn't drink? Okay? I started to become very afraid, very angry at this God that I'm just being introduced to. I unfortunately have 12 years my parents are going to send me to Catholic school. And I got a resentment towards them to beat the freaking band. Okay? And I became afraid of my mom, It was an accident, but I did, So I started to get really jacked up. And as time went by, I always wanted to be like my older brothers and sisters and my older cousins. They seemed to be the ones that were having fun, And especially my cousins who didn't have to go to the Catholic school. They weren't wearing uniforms. They were wearing cool clothes, and, you know, I just so wanted to be them. And I was always coming up with ideas of things that would fix me, you know, because I'm just not feeling right in my skin. If you knew me well, I'm very, you know, usually extroverted. I'm very comfortable in my skin. If you don't know me well, I'm extremely introverted. And it seemed, so I was always trying to figure everybody out, like, everybody has the code here. It's like everybody seemed to know what they were doing, and I'm trying to fit in with y'all, and it's not, I pretty much hate you, basically. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm jealous of you, I'm mad at you, I'm whatever. And I'm just feeling like I need to be more like my older cousins. So, at any rate, I'm now in 6th grade. And I have this best friend, who is my best friend pretty much because she wanted to do the same things I wanted to do. And she let me be boss. So, of course, she's my best friend. I talked her into, I heard about this party that the public school was having. It was a summer night. And I heard about this juniors and seniors were having. And it was up in the mountains at the fire towers. There was supposedly going to be hundreds of kegs, right? Just like, you know, 1,000 kids. And it just sounded like, oh my God. Now, keep in mind, we're in 6th grade in uniforms, all right? This is not exactly, you know, we're not exactly hanging with these people. But I just absolutely was convinced that this is the crowd that we need to meet. This is them. And somehow we got to work this. Now, with Ginny, I was totally comfortable. We're talking like 200, 500 strangers that I've never met in my life. Not feeling real comfortable, right? But I was very ambitious, and I was, you know, more ambitious than I was afraid. So I go to this party, and sure, I mean, it was incredible. I know you all have this. You know, it's locked in memory bank, that first big party, man. So I go to the party, and hundreds of people around a keg, and I've never worked a keg, and I'm like, oh my God. And there's something about the alcoholic. We, like, intuitively know things. We know we're people pleasers. We're chameleons. We know how to pick up your game and program ourselves. So literally, like, within 1 minute, I program myself to work that keg. I have it down. And I need to have it down. Because I got to convince these juniors and seniors that this is how I roll. It's freaking ridiculous. But I pulled that like only we could, and it was perfect. And I'm just like sashaying away with my beer and feeling so awesome, but really I'm shaking like a leaf inside. And I drank that beer, and, you know, I'm like in 6th grade. I'm like about this high, 80, pounds, if I'm even that. So, of course, like in a beer or two, I'm getting drunk. But that was my second spiritual awakening. So what are you in 6th grade? Like 12 years old? Something like that? Okay. I had not felt awesome in my skin since the fireflies and the, watching the stars come down. And so it's been like 12 years since I felt comfortable in my skin. You know that one registered. And for me, I took it to the wall. I drank into a blackout that very first night. Now let me say this. I thought the blackouts were part of what made me an alcoholic. They are not what make you an alcoholic. They often happen, but not to all of us. I do believe that very first night that I was an alcoholic. In fact, I think I was an alcoholic even before, okay? The alcohol just pulled out my alcoholism is the way that I see it. Could be wrong, okay? But that's the way that I interpret it. And so what's the point I'm trying to make? I know I'm trying to make a point. Something about blackouts. It's not the blackouts that make me an alcoholic. It's the fact that once I started drinking, I couldn't stop. Nor did I want to stop. I absolutely knew it was the thing that was making me free. I paid prices that night. I got in all kinds of trouble. Who cares? I had the time of my freaking life. And sure enough, I did meet juniors and seniors that thought that Ginny and I, my best friend, were pretty cool. They started letting us hang with them. So that was pretty priceless to me. So within a very short period of time, I just saw you right now. Excuse me, my friend. Within a very short period of time, it's hard to get, booze when you're in 7th grade or 6th grade, whatever I was. So, it's the 60s. I go to drugs. I mean, I just did. I'm not going to spend a lot of time there, but it's part of the story. So, I just started finding things to do on a daily basis, very, very young and very quickly, because I was having the time of my life. And it worked until I was about 18. Okay? But then I started realizing Pennsylvania, basically. It's just not happening. Okay? It's not close to cool enough. I got to get out of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is the problem. So I come up with this idea that I need to go to college in California. Now I'm finally away from my parents, so now I can drink 24/7. And I am drinking 24/7. I'm still having a very awesome time. But then I realized I always needed more. More. Not just alcohol, not just booze. I'm talking men, I'm talking money, I'm talking hipper, I'm talking faster, I'm talking more. I always need more to make me stay alive. Game on. I need game on. Gimme. And it's the only way I feel comfortable. It's the only way life is worth living, frankly. So now, basically, within a year, California is not even close to cool enough. So now I have to go to Hawaii. And the Hawaii connection, there's a story in the back of the big book. The guy says, he quotes Charles Dickens, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Well, that was my Hawaii. It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times. But let me tell you, I had arrived when I got to because what happened was a friend of mine was on a surf tour, and he had an oceanfront home on the North Shore of Oahu in the 70s. Let me tell you something. That was a very hip scene. I mean, just straight up, it was. Not too many people knew about it, and there were surfer boys from around the world. Oh, my God. Okay? Hottest, oh, please. Mushrooms that grew wild everywhere. Maui wowie bud as fat as... it was sick. I mean, it really was. It was absolutely fantastic. But, it was awesome. Let me just say that. But unfortunately, at that time, my sister, who I shared my bedroom with my entire life, my older sister, Katie, started to be diagnosed as mentally ill for several years. This is kind of happening as I'm moving from California to Hawaii and kind of all these different places. And it was dreadful and it was horrible. And she committed suicide. And it was like, a sucker punch that was quite hard to recover from. But even worse, that same year while I was living in Hawaii, my father, who was 49 and had always been a major athlete, always very in shape, working out for him, or playing tennis, being active, was not a new thing for him. But he was playing tennis, and at 49 years old, that same year my sister Katie died, he had a massive heart attack and died. And again, the only reason why I bring this up is because I thought, well, it's those things that make me an alcoholic. I mean, who wouldn't drink? Now I have two sisters that are dead. My father's died of a heart attack. I mean, these things make you an alcoholic. They do not, okay? But they can make you very, very spiritually sick. Very, very bedeviled. They have a lot to do with my alcoholism, and a lot of step work had to be done and still has to be done at times about that. But it is, in fact, that when I began to drink, I couldn't stop and had a craving. Definitely. That's the one trait we all have in common. Some of you didn't black out. Some of you drank normal from, say, I don't know, maybe you started drinking at 12, 18, 25. And somewhere around 45, you crossed over some gray line, and all of a sudden, you start drinking, and you can't stop. One symptom we all have in common is that craving. It can look real different, but that's an absolute, that's one of our things as alcoholics, the craving. And the fact that stone cold sober. See, now from 18 to 35, now I go into the Badlands. I'm in my head. And the alcohol and the drugs that used to fix my head and make me happy, joyous, and free, okay, now it's not working anymore. It's not turning things off. And I can't get rid of this inner pain that I'm feeling about the death of my family members, and all of a sudden about suddenly how scary everybody on the planet is, as a matter of fact. And all of a sudden I'm finding out I have to go through a lot of different formulas, but I came to the discovery I can't do drugs at all. Was not a happy camper about that. That took me many years to surrender. But I started to realize it was getting so ridiculously, the incomprehensible demoralization, no, okay? Could not take it anymore. So I just switched to drinking for daily drinking, I don't know, like 15 years or something. I actually don't remember, but it's probably something like that, 20 to 35-ish. At any rate, so as the years go by, I come back to the States, and I have to play all the different games. I need geographic changes. I moved to the Poconos, and then I'm, all over different parts of Philadelphia. I live in the main line. I'm out in the country. I'm in Center City, Philadelphia for 15, 20 years. I'm always having to change the game. And I'm always looking for the new crowd. So either I'm hanging with the rockers, or I'm hanging with the mainline preppy people, or the artists, and usually by the end, kind of all in one day. And I'm about, I'm so many different stage characters. I'm different with all of them. I'm partying, I'm losing my ever-loving gourd mind. The drugs are no longer working. And at the same time, I'm also managing some furniture stores, some very high-end furniture stores. So it's an extremely schizophrenic life. I was actually, successful in certain ways, but I'm collapsing inside, man. My head is going crazy. I'm afraid of everything. I'm depressed all the time. Like, it's just not happening. And out of the blue one night, I just decided I'm going to have to try to commit suicide. I'm kind of done. So that's what I did. Now, I just closed a huge deal in my office. And the next day, they find out I'm in the psych ward because I tried to commit suicide. That was a little embarrassing, let me just tell you, okay? But I was on life support in the work, so it was a serious attempt, and I was absolutely humiliated. But now I ended up in a psych ward, and it scared me, it really horrified me. But then I, kicked back a little bit and took in some of the people in the psych ward. I was like, yeah, I found my freaking people, man. This is like one flew over the cuckoo's nest. Heaven! I gotta get out of the work, man. I gotta get away from the man. I gotta hang with my peeps. So now I'm signing up for, the shrinks and the meds and the psych wards, and just like that, that's my new identity. I'm quite happy with it. I was having the time of my life. But I had to take that to the wall, and of course that wasn't working, and it was just all crazy and chaotic for many, many years, and now I'm working with a shrink in Philadelphia, and in order to work with this shrink, you had to work with his therapist, and he had told me that. He said, well, obviously, you have some very, very serious depression. And you have, an anxiety disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and it's quite severe. So, you're the kind of person that the only way that you're going to be able to treat your anxiety is if we give you benzodiazepines. And you're going to need 2 milligrams of Ativan 3 times a day, and 3 times a day, 2 milligrams of Xanax. And Ativan as needed. Well, I freaking loved him. So now I'm drinking and I'm back on drugs, but at least this time it's coming through a shrink. But the problem is, I was a blackout drinker from the time I was in 6th grade. There are only about a handful of times in my entire drinking where I wouldn't black out. We're talking every single freaking night, just drinking. Give me the Xanax and the Ativan, you can imagine. I'm like blacking out, one hit and I'm blacked out. I mean, it was just insane. But at least it was kind of tuning out the pain in my head. So at any rate, I would continue to go to this therapist because I had to go to this therapist in order to work with this shrink and get these meds. And so I'm working with them for a couple of years, and all of a sudden this one day, I go in, as per usual, and then he says to me, the therapist, she said, I know what's wrong with you. I'm like, okay. well, like, haven't you known what's wrong with me for 2 years? I got major depression and anxiety. Like, dude, I don't even get it, because she's all serious face. And she said, no. She said, I'm going to tell you something in confidence. She said that, in fact, will get me fired. I'm like, what the heck? She said, Sarah, she said, your problem is that you were a drug addict. You are now addicted to the medication that our psychiatrist has gotten you on. And you're an alcoholic. And your depression will never go away till you stop drinking, because alcohol is a depressant. And your fear is never going to go away until you get clean and sober. Okay? You just don't even know. Or maybe you do. I forget who I'm talking to. What that moment was like. But see, the thing that got my attention was that I knew that she would get fired. Okay? You did not say this against the rock star god of this psychiatric facility in Philadelphia. You just did not do that. I knew she was trying to confide in me. She was telling me something because she was really on my team. She was fighting for my life, and she was willing to do that. And there, there's this. We have a street smartness, and I could feel that. Oh, I could feel that in my soul. And I actually listened to her. And this, I feel, again, was a spiritual awakening for me. So I had it when I was about a year old. I had it when I was about, 6th grade, and now I'm having one many, many years later. And I'm like, 34, 35 or something. And I actually listened to her and went. Now, for people like us, alcohol was my solution. I mean, yes, I'm blacking out for 25 years straight. Yes, I have a problem with every single person I know. Yes, I can't handle a job anymore. Yes, I'm, visiting institutions. But I intuitively knew that alcohol was my solution, man. These benzos are my solution. You're taking, I can't do your planet. And somehow I listened to her and trusted her and went to this place and went through with the detox. Now, I have been doing the benzos for a long time. I, honest to God, do not remember. And lately I've been saying in my story, and I swear it's true, I think I'm still detoxing from them. I am not kidding. I don't think that stuff ever leaves you. There is something wrong with my brain. Stick around me long enough and you'll know it. There's holes in there. I had to go through several detoxes because it just was not pretty. But I went through it with hopes that, okay, well, now maybe I'm going to stop being depressed and stop being afraid, because that's what my therapist had told me. And now I got sober in Center City, Philadelphia. So I start coming around, but I'm not feeling happy. And I'm listening to all you guys, and you guys seem to be, happy. And I'm like, we're in basement dungeons, bowling, and sharing about how we can no longer drink. And you're all happy. I was like... this was, I wasn't good with it, okay? Let's just say that. Just being honest. And so I had a lot of relapses, all right? I guess this is 93, 94-ish. I relapsed a lot. But, they were so loving and said, just keep on coming back, Sarah, keep on coming back. Of course, as, a couple of years went by, they're getting pretty tired of me, but keep coming back, Sarah. And then, so now I'm at July 25th, 1997. I get a mega resentment over a guy I meet in the rooms, of course, who's supposed to be my savior and fix me. I mean, what I really need is a sober guy, somebody that understands me to fix me. Of course, we know how that went. And so now I hate him, and I had to drink again. And I came back into one of the meetings, and fortunately, there was a woman who had time and was willing to sponsor me. And she really was having an awesome experience. She was at the time 20 years sober. She was a lawyer. She was married. She was sponsoring. She has a home group. She was absolutely awesome. And she was so loving to me and so patient. And she actually lived in South Philly, and I lived, right in Center City. And she would take the subways to get to me, and walk part way, and it wasn't exactly easy, but she would come to me, okay? She was willing to lay down her life to help another alcoholic. And she would come to my home, and we would go through, at that time, the 12 and 12. And it was common back then that you did a step a year. Okay? So it seemed to me that everybody's getting better but me. But I'm doing what she's saying, and I meet her every single solitary week. And I'm not doing so well. Although, I'm trying to, make coffee, I'm straightening chairs, I got my home group, I'm trying to help people, I'm sponsoring people. This is partially my amends why I'm here today to make up for that. Oh my gosh, God bless those old sponsees. But I was trying to. And, I became a GSR, and, I'm still seeing my therapist. I'm no longer doing benzos, of course, but I'm still seeing a therapist. And I'm doing everything that's suggested to me, but I am not getting better. And by now it's year 6. And I am in 24/7 agony. 24/7 agony. I go to the meetings and I share my stuff, and I'd be happy for a little bit. I had a lot of really good friends. We were having a good time, and we could tell each other the truth of the crazy in our heads. We were good friends. But I would go home and just feel crazy, man. Just feel like I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to stay here. I can't stay here. And now I'm getting to the point where I really am afraid I'm going to commit suicide. And it wasn't because I was afraid of death. I just didn't want to do it to my mom and my sisters and brothers. Because in all honesty, we never really healed from the deaths of my 2 sisters and my father. That was a game changer. Okay? And I did not want to do that to them. And I remember praying from my soul to God, just like, dear God, what is it that I need to do? I have done everything that I am supposed to do in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I am not getting better. And you can definitely doubt me here. It's totally okay. I actually heard a voice inside of me that said, no, you haven't done everything. And I'm like, okay, what haven't I done? You never talked to Jim. Never talked to Jim? I didn't know exactly who he meant by Jim. Why would I talk to Jim? First of all, and Jim was an AA member, sober for 20 years, and was a big biker dude that would walk around with a big book. And he seemed to be telling everybody that we were doing it wrong. I did not like Jim. Unfortunately, it was hot, so it kind of made it a little confusing to me. But, didn't like him. Because he reminded me of the Catholics, the goody-goods, the priests and the rabbis and the lectures. And I was just like, oh, God, can't you just be cool? Really? Can't we just share stuff? You got to really tell us like we're doing it wrong? I knew, when I heard you never talked to Jim, I knew exactly who God was talking to. Now, you can doubt me through and through, but I knew what was going on. And I'm like, why would I talk to Jim? But I knew, and I had always heard, and if I didn't say it, women with the women, men with the men. So for me to go to a man made no sense at all. But then it was like, maybe I'm supposed to go see him because he is 20 years sober. He has a lot of respect, even though a lot of people don't like him. He has a lot of respect. So maybe I need to talk to him to tell him about what's going on, because he has the authority, I guess, to tell me whether or not I need medication. He can tell me whether I'm bipolar. Because when I tell him all the stuff I do in AA, he's going to have the discernment to tell me what's going on. So, sure enough, I see him the next day, and I knew I would, at this outdoor little cafe in Philadelphia. He's out there hanging with his bros. They're all coming up to him. My God, it would be so weird. They'd come up to him and they'd be like, dude, I hate my girlfriend so bad. Hate her. And he'd be like, really? Why? I was painting all day. Hot summer day. I came home, I took a shower. I happened to throw the towel on the floor. She flipped out. He'd be like, oh, really? Well, didn't she have a hard day today when she worked in the ER? Don't you think that maybe you need to be a little more considerate? Do you think that maybe you should be going home and saying, I'm sorry to her, that you're being so inconsiderate and expecting her to go pick up your towel after she worked all day? I was like, whoa. I wasn't having those conversations with my sponsor. If I would have told her my partner did that, she would have been like, you don't deserve that, Sarah. You don't. That's not fair. You prep. And, she just loved me. And, So this guy scared me. I was like, what are they doing? And I would see this one after the other, but somehow I gathered up the moxie to ask him. I went up to him and I said, Jim, could I have a conversation with you? And he was gracious enough to say yes. He knew I didn't like him. Okay, so he was practicing principles before his personality. And we went behind this coffee place, and I said, Jim, the thing is, I have some things going on, and I just, really felt led to actually talk to you about it. And he said, okay, well, lay it on me. So I started telling him about how, I can't get along with my family, man. I can't keep on losing my job. Can't frickin' stand my boss, man. I hate, I won't say his name, the ex, Can't get along with the guys anymore. I'm so afraid, man. I'm always afraid. I can never stop being afraid, whether I go to the meetings or not, And I'm telling him I'm just wrecked, dude. I'm just wrecked inside constantly, no matter how much I'm doing. I said, but, I'm doing a step a year. I'm working out of the 12 and 12. We've done a step a year. So I've really done it right, I took it slow. I went deep and slowly with this thing. Like I was serious. And I'm a GSR. I make coffee. I'm sponsoring people. And he's listening. This is a big guy, He's got his book, the hardback. And he's listening. Oh, really? Listening, nodding his head. I said, so Jim, what's wrong with me? And he said, well, I know exactly what's wrong with you. And I was like, oh, thank God. I said, so what is it? And he said, you're an untreated alcoholic. I'm like, oh my God, please. I said, an untreated alcoholic? What are you talking about? I said, did you not just listen to what I said? I said, I'm a GSR. Okay? Oh my God. Do I have to tell you this again? I've been working a step a year. I meet her every single solitary week. He's going on and on. He said, Sarah, I want you to open up your big book. Or he goes, no, he has a big book. I wouldn't have been carrying a big book when I'm sorry. I told you that I remember my story. He says, I need to ask you a couple of questions in my big book. He said, so on page 52, he said, I have a feeling you probably haven't gotten this yet, even though I've been watching you for a long time in Philadelphia. He said, I think it's about time that I ask you a couple of questions. He says, are you having problems in your personal relations, Sarah? Can you control your emotional nature? Are you prey to misery and depression? Can you make a living? And by that I mean like a living where you kind of feel like you fit in the planet, like it's all making sense. You having a feeling of uselessness? Are you full of fear? Are you unhappy? Can you seem to be of real help to other people? I'm like, what are you? I went home and read my big book again. I was like, because I had been going to big book studies for a long time. I had never read that paragraph before in my life. What are you talking about? And of course, it's humorous for me to think back on it because I was like the ripest alcoholic fruit on the tree for another real alcoholic to grab. Oozing bedevilments, okay? And he's just picking me off and just, rubbing it in my face as to what's going on. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, Sarah, that's the unmanageability. I'm like, that's the unmanageability? I thought the psych wards were the unmanageability. I thought that not being able to have a job was the unmanageability. And he said, that's the exterior stuff, okay? That's like, the iceberg, that we see outside of the ocean. He said, but that's not the unmanageability that Alcoholics Anonymous is designed to treat. He said, Alcoholics Anonymous is designed to treat the bedevilments, which is known as the spiritual malady, or the unmanageability. Are you freaking kidding me? That's alcoholism? Now, I had been around Alcoholics Anonymous for 9 years until I heard that message. I had no idea. Back in the day, it might have been happening, but it didn't happen to me. I wasn't really qualified. Nobody had that conversation with me in the first hour of what an alcoholic is. In that first hour, in that conversation, he made sure that I qualified myself. We talked about my drinking. He reviewed it with me quite quickly. And we talked about how I had the craving. that when I started drinking, I couldn't stop. And worse, stone cold sober, after the terrible, incomprehensible demoralization that would happen, I couldn't remember that. Or if I did remember it, the only thing that my head could lock in on is if I have a drink and have some ease and comfort. But I would always believe my mind. Sometimes it took a few days as the years went by, a few weeks, a few months as I tried to, stay sober, but I could never stay sober. I would need that relief. I believe my mind. And he helped me to understand that page 44 in here, or 46, I guess it is, talks about how it's those two symptoms that make us an alcoholic. He said that's only the first half of the first step, though, Sarah. And you just qualified yourself. We just examined your experience. I'm not telling you anything. You're looking at your life, and you're telling me what's been happening to you. He said, but you never got the second half of the first step either, that your life has become unmanageable. And he said, and that's what the bedevilment is about. And he said, if you think that Alcoholics Anonymous is here to try to fix your brain, you don't understand anything. And I'm going to have to introduce you to what Carl Jung told Roland Hazard. There is no fixing the mind of an alcoholic. All right? It's broken, essentially. And your body is broken too. Like basically once you're a pickle, you ain't ever going to be a cucumber again. So AA doesn't try to spend any time fixing your brain or your body. End of. Sorry, you're going to die, or you're going to look for God. I'm like, oh my God. This is all happening in about an hour. And he said, Sarah, the only thing that Alcoholics Anonymous is designed to treat is the bedevilments, the spirituality, the unmanageability, through the remaining 12 steps. Steps 2 to 12 is to treat that. I cannot even tell you what that conversation was like for me. It was, talk about God walking in. I was absolutely, utterly convinced that that voice that I heard last night was God, because I never understood any of this. I was like, oh my God, I'm an alcoholic. I'm suffering from untreated alcoholism. He said, Sarah, it never had to be this way. Do you understand that the first 100 went through those steps in a couple of days to a couple of weeks? He said, and I'm not here to make your sponsor wrong. I have a lot of respect for her. She's a wonderful woman. He said, but the problem is you are an alcoholic of the hopeless variety. And you are sicker sober than you probably ever were when you were drinking. I was like, well, hello. You're talking my language. And that is the magic of one real alcoholic talking to another alcoholic who has found the solution outlined in the big book. And I said to him, dude, you have got to sponsor me. He said, I'm game. We knew Philadelphia was not going to be cool about this. But God bless him. He was strong enough in God that he really didn't care. He really didn't care. And I was desperate enough that I was willing to do it. Really didn't care. No time for caring. I got to get well. So within a couple of months, we went through the steps that are outlined in the big book, and I had a massive spiritual awakening. Massive. And he made me go out into the streets, into the meetings in Philadelphia, and he made me carry this message within a couple of months. I'm like, I don't even know what just happened to me. I know you read it line by line. I can't do that. And he said, oh, yes, you can do it. Now, let me tell you something. This is a big dude. He was not going to play softball. All right? I had to do this. So he's telling me now I got to go into the meetings. So I start going into the meetings. And I start telling him the truth. And I'm pretty passionate about this. Okay, I'm getting some relief. My head's starting to get quiet, and I am on fire. I finally know what's wrong with me. And I finally know what the solution is and what I need to be doing. Now, I'm not real well, okay? I'm probably more bedeviled than I was well, but I was on fire. And so I start going into these meetings where, I had a lot of friends. They were really wonderful people, but they were like, what happened to Sarah? Like, wasn't she just back crap nuts like 2 weeks ago? Like, hello? And they're just looking at Jim. They didn't want to say anything to Jim. And this is a big guy. They're just like, what? So a lot of the old timers were not really too much of a fan of what I was doing and what I was talking about. They weren't. But the newcomers, they would like sign me up with this girl. We can go through the steps right away. And unbeknownst to me, there was a little bit of a spiritual phenomenon. Talk about a pocket of enthusiasm that was about to happen in Center City, Philadelphia. Because I started getting sponsees left and right. left and right. And he's making me to go to meetings more and more and get more and more. I'm like, how am I going to I got to have time to live. I can't be reading the book to everybody. And I said, Jim, would it be all right if I did the Joe and Charlie tapes maybe with him and brought them all into my house? He said, sure, let's try it. So I bring a bunch of girls into my house, and we start going through the Joe and Charlie tapes. And then he calls me up, he goes, you know what, I got a bunch of guys that I just got. He said, can we come to your Joe and Charlie meeting? I'm like, sure. So they bring him into my apartment, which, by the way, used to be a church. It was made into an apartment. It became a church again. Let me tell you something. Within about a month, I don't know, maybe 2 months, something like that, we had so many people jam-packed into that apartment that they literally, I had them down the hallway, and we were trying to figure out how to get the speakers to get all these people to hear it. It became that big, that quickly. Too big to even contain in my apartment, so I had to get my sponsee, who had a big apartment on Jewelers Row, massive thing, we brought it over there, and then in a short period of time it just became too much for that, so then we started big book meetings, and we started 1-hour speaker meetings, and then all of a sudden we're meeting people from all over the place, and it was absolutely incredible. My story's really coming out different tonight. It's at 9:25. How do I want to close this? One of the biggest things for me, I mean, each step was so absolutely incredible, but one of the biggest things for me was to find out that this really was going to be about a spiritual solution, and this was really about God, and that I was going to find that God was within me, always was, always will be, but that I was just blocked off. See, the problem is I hated God. I hated God. Quite honestly, there was a part of me that was agnostic, a part of me that was severely atheistic. I just wasn't sure. And a little part of me that believed. Because like magical things would happen to me that you just couldn't line the Rubik's Cube up. You just knew something, you know. But I had these hellacious feelings. And I had tried talking to many, priests and rabbis and, ministers over the years. And I investigated many different sects of Christianity, from, born-again fundamentalists to, Lutherans to Buddhists to Taoists to, science of mind and unity and just on and on and on, trying to figure the God thing out. And so one of the most miraculous things, God melted the icy intellectualism. Bill Wilson and Sara S. See, I thought you had to get to God through addition. I thought I had to figure him out. Little did I know that it was my God of reason that was blocking him off. Little did I know that it was my honest doubt and prejudice that was blocking him off. God bless Alcoholics Anonymous and what God has shown the people in our history of how we can find him and experience him in us. That there are no lectures. When I would tell priests that I hated God, or certain ministers, they weren't exactly fans of my rage. Okay, they kind of tolerated, but I could tell they were really turned off. Like, God, Whereas, I was told that in here, we share our honest doubt and prejudice. And we go to God exactly as we are. God loves us exactly as we are. And all I needed to do was to find out what my honest doubt and prejudice were. And I'm like, well, how do I find them? And he said, well, pray, trust the part of you that trusts God. Ask that God if he will reveal to you some of your hidden resentments or prejudices towards him. And just like that, they started coming up. God's punishing. God's judgmental. God plays favorites. I had a whole bunch of them. And so, he just listened to these things, and he said, Sarah, I want to ask you a question. We agnostics and atheists chose to believe that our human intelligence was the last word, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and end of all. rather vain of us, wasn't it? And he said, do you see how these ideas are coming from your mind? The Alpha, the beginning of the story, is coming from you. The Omega, the end. In other words, whatever your mind has told you has been your God. Amen. And your God, your mind, has told you that God is punishing, that God doesn't love you, that God plays favorites, and because it came from your mind, which is self-reliance, the only ones we really trust is ourselves. So all you ever did was worship your mind and your beliefs. Can you see how this is happening? Let me just tell you, this is like a Neo-Matrix moment, because yes, I could see how it was happening. I was having a spiritual awakening. And he said, is it possible that you're wrong? And it started to collapse. Collapse, man. It came alive. Ease and comfort. Inside of me. That's never left me. I can still get crazy, but I know how to get back to ease and comfort now. The other thing I got to say real quickly is the magic of the 4-step, man. The magic of every step. Okay? I'm not real good at the podium. I'm not. Get me one-on-one. Let's talk. I love that. And I want you to love it. Because I want you to find your ease and comfort. All right? There is a solution for alcoholism, and there is meant to be, and it is God. You may never understand God, but who cares? If you find ease and comfort and you can get through the planet and you can move with peace, okay? That's a pretty sweet spot. But I got to say something. One of the other things I never really got was the resentment and fears. But I'm going to just take a moment, because I only got a moment. Let me talk about resentments. I didn't understand what you guys were talking about when it came to resentments for forever. I thought you were telling me that I was bad, that it was my fault, that I was supposed to look at the 4th column to find out that it was my fault. I wasn't getting this, okay? In fact, what the book is telling us is that we were powerless. I am stuck on self. Without God, without the 3rd step, I can't choose anybody other than myself, because I'm trying to survive this crazy planet. And I don't feel like I can trust anybody else. And so I'm going to turn to myself and what I feel is right, and I am powerless to be different. The 4th step is going to start to break down and help me discover how some of that manifests. And it manifests largely through resentments. What it taught me, what I finally understand now, is that you people can be wrong. Or you can be wrong. It is not all me. All right? But what happens to me as an alcoholic is I stay stuck. I get hijacked in you are wrong. And I can't stop thinking it. Literally powerless to. It's the only way I can see it. Or I start to hate myself. I can't believe I can't forget that person. What is wrong with me? So I go to hating you or to hating me. And that's the best I got without God. That's all God wanted me to see. The sick man's prayer is for me. To be able to start to respond to all of you differently. My 4th column, I was powerless to be different. I'm not bad. God is not mad at me or any of you. You couldn't have been different. Period. The end. But God is here for you to show you a new way to respond when they are crazy. The problem is, when you were crazy, okay, the spotlight would end up on me, all right? Because I would act lunatically insane over your crazy. I would so outshine your crazy that you never had to take your inventory. Because I won the ribbon. I won the, whatever, the prize for ultimate crazy girl. I had really poor skills. Really poor skills. And God has shown me how I can turn to Him, how I can turn to prayer, how I can turn to principles of tolerance and praying for these things, and compassion and patience. I am expected. I must get this, as my sponsor says to me. Sarah, this is a must. You must get this, because the resentments are going to kill you. Okay, so hear this one from your soul. All right? I have to turn to prayer. I got to give God my weapons of hating you and judging you and ruminating about you and gossiping about you and blah, blah, blah. I got nothing else. You guys got nothing else either. But in giving God those old weapons, more of the icy intellectualism, the icy barrier begins to melt. And you know what you get? More love, more peace, more serenity, conscious contact, more intuitively knowing how to handle situations that always baffled you before. Right inside here. And it's not like I hear voices. It's more like, no, don't gossip about her. No, don't steal that dress. No more married men, Sarah, for God's sake. You know, I intuitively know what not to do is usually more how it is. I wish I could go on and on, because I could get like crazy, fanatical fan about our book, about our solution at this point. But I hope that if I didn't, I hope that if I'm saying something, and maybe you're new and you haven't heard this yet, that we get to have a conversation after the meeting. I will certainly be giving you my phone number so that we can have a really better conversation later. Or if maybe you're in AA, maybe you've been through the big book. Because let me tell you something, I've gone back crap even after the big book. I have had to go through these steps again, using the set-aside prayer from all my soul to hear this again, get on fire again, and it's worked. So if you're going a little crazy and you feel like you know the solution, it's not really news, but you got crazy, I'm your go-to girl. I know all about that one, too. And that's really painful, too, man. But I'm free of that. I'm free of that, too. I stay involved in my home group. I stay sponsored. I'm a fan of being sponsored, right? My sponsor doesn't manage my problems. She turns me to God. I'm a fan of being sponsored. It's just out of my experience. I stick close to her. I stick close to my sponsee sisters. I have quite a few sponsees. I stay very active. I get to speak fairly often for Alcoholics Anonymous. I get to be with my God inside of me. I don't need booze or drugs today to be with you people. And that's priceless. And that's what our program is offering to us. That's what's available to us. So thank you for letting me share.
Thanks, Sarah, one more time. Thank you, Sarah. Customary for us to form a line and thank our speakers. They come here at their own time and expense to share their stories and their experience.